Dan?
I am here behind the camera, making sure everything's working, and I'll be walking up front. Okay, so it looks like we're live.
It's not live here.
It will be though. It goes live before you notice it's live. Like I was watching you guys talk about, is it live yet? And it was live.
Yeah. You need to turn your sound down, probably.
We are live.
All right. We need the sound down, but we're good. We are live.
We are good. We're live.
All right, guys. Welcome to our channel. We'll let everybody get on. We'll probably give it a minute or two. As you see, we have a guest with us, Devon Monk.
Yes,
author Devon Monk. And we'll be interviewing her in just a minute, but we want to let people join. Are people seeing us? Can they hear us? Are we doing good?
Yeah, if you guys can just say something.
We're a little early,
we're
right?
Good.
We're a little early, but yeah, we're about 2 minutes early, so people may not be seeing us. That's why I want to wait a couple minutes before we get going with our interview. So, anyhow.
Well, thank you for inviting me to your studio.
Yes, thank you for coming to our live show.
Do our number 3.
Yeah, number 3 show.
Number
3.
Number 3.
I think this is my first live interview. Like I've done panels at conventions and book signings and talks, and I've done a few teaching things, but I've never done like a live show.
That's cool. Well, this is our third, so
you are way ahead of me because like I do my little Monday month things, but I tend to tape them and then edit out the parts where I say dumb stuff.
We like the dumb stuff. We want all of it. That's why we like the live show.
And just to let you guys know, we have all the links down below.
Yes.
To you.
Thank you. Yeah. Once every Monday, I get on there to talk about writing, and weird things, or just whatever's going on. I don't know. I should add new things to it. People should ask me questions.
So, you could have them send them in ahead of time, and then you could. I always watch your show though in the morning.
Yeah, I do.
I love it. Yeah.
Thank you. I've done so far. I'm up to 22.
I know, that's amazing.
I can't believe I haven't missed one yet. I thought I was going to get like 4 weeks in and be like, I'm done.
Yeah. No, I like it. It's great.
Well, it's a break, right? It's kind of.
What's nice, yeah. I mean, when you write for a living, when I write for a living, so like it's all about words, I write books, I write blogs, I write back cover copy for books, I write advertising for books, I write, just anything that I do with my career, any social posts and anything, it's all writing, it's all words, which I love. But getting to film, like to say to somebody, instead of like writing a blog post, this is how it's going, I can just sit there and say it. And it is a break from writing because I can just say, hey, we're having good weather or something instead of, writing. So yeah, I like it. It's a nice break.
I also like to watch whatever neat little thing you knit or whatever creature you got, a new animal.
Yes.
So since we're starting the talk and stuff, we did start just real quick. How did you become who you were?
How did I get into writing?
Yeah.
Honestly, and I thought about this when I was about 11. I didn't realize that people wrote books. I thought books just happened and you got to read them when I was young. And then I became aware of the idea that there are people who wrote them. And I'm like, somebody gets to do that. That's amazing, right? And I was an avid reader. And Mom, when I was young, she said, well, you like reading so much. Why don't you try writing? And I'm like, can I? Yeah. And I'm like, can I do that? Because I thought only special people, important people, people who lived in big cities, not little podunk me and little podunk Salem, Oregon, could write books. And so I thought, well, I could try, right? Just why not? And then, I wanted to write novels first. And this is a long Reader's Digest version, but it's almost over. I wanted to write novels first, but I talked to a bunch of writers and at that time, they said, you should write a bunch of short stories first to practice writing. And once you get a bunch of short stories published, then when you send your book off to New York to get published, they'll say like, look at all these amazing short stories. And that'll kind of help build your career. Well, they were wrong. My first book, I spent like 3 years writing short stories. I sold them, and all that. It's good. It was great practice. They were right about that. But as for selling the first book, sold it to my agent, or we agreed that she would represent it. Then she sold it to my editor, and I'm like, so they were really glad that I had all those short stories written. And my agent goes, "You wrote short stories?"
Oh Lord. That's
So
it didn't really matter, did it?
Did not help with the selling of it all. It did help me learn story and
Okay.
story structure and all that stuff. So it's good practice.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you find was it easier to write short stories than novels?
You would think so. And
I would think so.
'Cause they're
for
shorter,
me.
right?
Yeah, they're short.
so no, and most writers, if you're a short story writer, yes, short stories are easier than novels. But if you tend to think in novel length or tend to read novel length, getting a whole story in a tiny amount of words is really a trick. And there are certain tricks you have to do to make it work. And if you haven't spent 3 years trying to do that, or 10 years, or however many years doing short stories, they can be really, really challenging.
Well, I could see it'd be hard to character development when you only have so many words you're allowed to.
Exactly. You can't go into a whole long backstories or lots of descriptions of.
Well, and then you usually don't have as many characters.
You don't. And so you kind of, short fiction is its own trick. And so what's interesting is when I went to write my first novels, I made them too short because I was so used to packing so much into every sentence to try to make it carry the. Yeah, and they're like, "Can you just expand it?" And I'm like, "I don't know how. How do I put more words in?" And so I've gotten better at that because novels are also kind of their own trick, right? You know, so.
Well, that's why you read Stephen King, where he puts 200 pages in the middle.
It's like, what?
I mean, no kidding.
Seems like a lot. I don't think I could do that. I'm not built that way.
All right, are we good? Has anybody said anything?
No. Let's see. We have 5 people watching.
Okay, good.
People.
All right.
Hello.
Well, I think this is good.
People.
I think we'll go with this, and we'll start the interview. So I've got some questions. We'll just start asking. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
Okay.
So, have you written any books about paranormal UFOs in them?
Okay, so yes, on paranormal. Basically, the first book that I sold for series that I sold is urban fantasy, which is paranormal. It's the regular everyday world with something in it that is paranormal or something that goes bump in the night, right? Okay. So, a lot of urban fantasy started off with vampires and werewolves. Those were the first creatures that were in the real world, or ghosts and that kind of thing. And I have written books because I've written 7 series and all of them have some kind of paranormal thing in it. I haven't done any UFO books, mostly because UFOs freak me out.
Yes.
So I haven't done those yet. I did write kind of a science fiction-y one that has time travel in it and stuff with that kind of. It doesn't really have spaceships.
Those were the House Immortal
books, right? With the kind of Frankenstein-y type immortal people. But I haven't ever done. I haven't done aliens and I have written some short stories on the moon and stuff like that. I did some short story stuff, but I have not done the actual aliens.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So of the stories, so now that I know that you pretty much only have paranormal things, what would be your favorite that you've of those stories? Yeah.
Okay. So of my series, it's always the next one I'm writing, right? Is because the one I'm writing, the last one that I got done, I'm like, phew, okay, it's done. And then it's let's go do a new fun one, right? Yeah. So I would say my favorite series out of all my series, I don't know. I'm really sort of digging on the, I love the Ordinary Magic series because that's set on the coast in the little town where we used to go, where our great grandma lived. Right. It's ordinary Oregon, but it's actually kind of Lincoln City and Depot Bay and a little bit of Newport, right? Yeah, exactly. Over there. But I love that because it's a place that I know so well, and I get to put different Gilman and Bigfoot and different actual creatures over there in the stories. So I love those. But lately I'm really liking the Souls of the Road series because that's Route 66, and I get to use the legends of the places that I'm taking the characters through on Route 66. So so cool. So I get to pick up legendary creatures along the way.
Real quick, so are they real legends?
Yeah, I'm using.
You have researched with that path?
Some of them are, yeah. Like in a spin-off of my Route 66 books, I wrote a novella, and in it I use like the what's it called, the honey swamp. Hang on, I wrote it down because I'm terrible about remembering these things. In my little book, it's the what's he called? He's called the Honey Island Swamp Monster. He's basically the Cajun.
Okay.
So, like, you know, I made sure I did some research and put him in there.
Right.
He's actually in Louisiana, but there's a reason why we go off of the route down to there. And like in Ordinary Oregon, in one of them, I needed a creature that was less known, so I used the squonk, which is a New Jersey kind of logger tale or legend that came out of the loggers of a creature that went through the hemlocks back then, and that you know, came out of twilight and stuff, and so, and would dissolve if you caught it.
I recently read something about
the squonk. And but I thought, well, that's unusual. So yeah, I do research creatures when I put them into books.
That's cool.
And so this is not on one of my questions, but I have a question. Most of your books are written, take place in Oregon?
So many of them. Yeah. So my first series, Ellie Beckstrom series, is in Oregon, and there's a spinoff that's also in Oregon. Those are in Portland. And then I started a steampunk magic Western. So Western fantasy with curses and
which I enjoyed.
Pretty fun, kind of dark but adventuresome. And that's the Age of Steam series, and that starts in I think I called it it's been a while. Is it Hallelujah, Oregon? Which is really over in Eastern Oregon, and then they go across the west.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then the Ordinary Magic books are set over on the coast, and then the Souls of the Road books are set on Route 66. Yeah.
Yes. So are they the first ones you've really written out of Oregon? Was the Route 66 books?
I think so, except for the House of Mortal ones, which are, I don't even remember where I set those in. I mean, they're on Earth, but I don't remember what.
So it wasn't a specific place?
Well, hockey.
The hockey. Yeah, the hockey urban fantasy. The wizard and a werewolf play hockey.
Yeah, where was that?
Portland.
Okay,
yeah, because I wanted hockey in our area, and this was before the Seattle Krakens came in the area.
And then we got the Krakens.
they got the Krakens.
All right, so what is your favorite book or movie about UFO or paranormal? So it could be UFO or it could be paranormal.
UFO or paranormal. Okay, I'm going to do UFO, and we were talking about this a little bit before we got started, because I'm like, I don't know what, I avoid scary movies about, like, I avoid scary movies about aliens. I do. But I did love Aliens, the second one. The first one is kind of horror in space.
Yeah, it's more.
So not really.
Second one's action, more of an
I like the action one, So I like the Aliens. And when I was younger, Close Encounter of the Third Kind was really.
It's a great one.
Yeah, it's a great one. I love the contact in it. It was through music and stuff, and like that was kind of seminal. Like that was, I like that idea of, they come down and he seems happy to go with them and everything.
Yeah, okay, the aliens are less scary in that one.
Yeah, less
for
scary.
Sure.
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay. So real quick, what book? Because I know you read a lot growing up.
I've read some.
Yeah, growing up and stuff. What really got you into, hey, I could write and stuff. And, it's like, because you read fantasy mostly
fantasy.
Science fiction at all?
Science fiction. So I read all the, starting from the Edgar Rice Burroughs, I read the Highlands. I read through our parents' library, science fiction and fantasy library.
Here's Anthony.
Here's Anthony. I read those. I read, which don't hold up, but I just still, yet did read them. And I read some like Anne Maxwell, which isn't very well known. I read like Patricia McKillop, Anne McCaffrey. Like all of these fantasists.
What's the one that spoke to you, like you say, in general, that really was like,
Anne McCaffrey, The Dragon Riders of Pern, love that, right? And I went back and read the first one. I'm like, there's some stuff in here that I don't remember. He's slapping her around a lot, and I don't think I like that. It's back in the 60s, maybe. And Roger Zelazny, The Nine Princes of Amber, love that. And I read some old, I think it's Henry Knudsen. He went by several different names, but he was a short storyist, actually, who was brilliant with fantasy and science fiction. He's fantastic. So, but, The Dragon Riders of Pern, the definitely the Patricia McKillop's, like The Forgotten Beast of Eld, and the Anne Maxwell's right? And Anne Maxwell's, and Patricia Reed, The Soul String, like some of these really got me into wanting to write fantasy. And so I was going to write fantasy, but then I heard, hey, short fiction. So then I went off and wrote short fiction, and then I was writing fantasy, but then I came up with this idea of, what if everybody could use magic? Everybody can use it, but you have a price to pay to use it, and that price is, it hurts, it's pain. So you can make other people pay that price, or you could, all this stuff, and people use it illegally and stuff. And I kind of threw that together, not on a whim, but I was like, why not?
Right.
So kind of just wrote it. And that was the first book of mine that sold, and that was urban fantasy. And so that set me down the urban fantasy path, because I was mostly going high fantasy, more epic fantasy. And so, so I am messing around with something on the side that kind of leans away from urban fantasy and more toward something else.
Straight fantasy.
Gotcha.
Straight fantasy. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Kind of messing with it.
Okay, here's one. Do you like to work out stories with others or just yourself?
Mostly with myself, although I have to give shout out to my youngest brother, Dean Woods, who is absolutely invaluable for the Ellie Beckstrom books and for the House of Mortal books. If you want to know how I didn't break any of the time traveling rules, you may think Dean Woods, because he was brilliant talking that through and trying to find all the plot holes and to make it work. So he was just absolutely indispensable for, at least my first couple of series. But mostly I work them out with myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Mostly.
You don't come to like a thing and say, how do I make this work? And
I do. I walk around the house saying that. Every once in a while, my husband's like, hey, you okay there, honey?
What are you doing?
I'm just trying to figure this out.
All right. Well, that's cool. Do you like to read books during the same time you're writing?
I do, but not in the genre I'm writing.
You're afraid that you're going to copy something?
I'm afraid I'm going to copy
So
something.
what's your genre you read?
I'll read, like, if I'm writing urban fantasy, I can read straight fantasy or science fiction, or I can read romance, or I can read mystery, but I don't read urban fantasy. So I just, keep them separate.
Yeah, you don't want accidentally to.
Exactly.
No, I get it.
Okay, so here's a big one that is, I think, a problem for everybody is writer's block is common. Yeah. What do you do to get through it?
I used to think that I should just keep writing, just keep writing,
ignore
it and keep writing. And what I've learned is that when I get really writer's blocked, I need to stop. I need to just completely step away from writing for it can even be a couple of weeks, and just don't do it, because it's basically my brain is burned out.
So I know you make those creatures. Is that one of your things you use to go over and do to free your mind? Yeah,
do something that isn't on the line. So if I knit, there's I'm not selling it. Nobody's expecting it. It comes out whenever.
It's just you're doing what you want.
I'm just going to do it. Yeah, and enjoy it, right? So it's a creative way to be, creative without having to kind of bang through the whole how to create plot and characters and all that stuff. So yeah, step away, do something else.
Gotcha. Okay, have you ever thought of writing something that you have personally experienced, paranormal, UFO, if you've had those experiences?
I've had a couple of things. They aren't nearly as exciting as other people's experiences, but no, I don't want to write about them.
They're too real.
They're too
close, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't separate the character.
You wouldn't even put something that might came close to what you experienced for a character to go through?
Okay, I might take a piece of it, but I wouldn't base something on it.
Gotcha. You might take an experience that you've had and then change it a little bit to work for your story, but wouldn't put the exact
right, or take this part of it and be like if I had heard voices somewhere, I might use that part of what that feeling.
Do you remember how it made you feel?
How it made me feel.
Gotcha.
But so it would get in there. It's just I wouldn't base the whole story on it.
All right, I got you. Okay, do you find it easier writing male or female characters?
So that's there's a lot of talk in the writing world about own voices, which is a lot about making room for creators of every type to create. So Black people should be writing out of their experiences, and white people should be writing out of their experiences, of course, and Hispanic people should be writing out of their experiences, and that the market should reflect that. We shouldn't just have white writing everybody, there should be everybody writing, and male writers should be writing, female writers, and non-gendered, affirming writers should be writing. So, so that you're kind of stumbled into this is a big discussion right now in the industry.
Interesting.
But so it makes me think about who I'm writing and whose voices I'm trying to give, and where is not my space to step over. So, but that being said, most of the stories and the books that I read growing up were all male protagonists. The guy was the hero. The guy was out doing the adventure, right?
Yeah.
And so even when I first started writing short fiction, I just naturally defaulted to a male character, right? Because I was so used to reading that and seeing that. So I wrote a lot of guy lead characters, and then I started writing some female lead characters. And then when I got into urban fantasy, it was more common to have female lead characters. So I wrote more female lead characters.
Yeah.
And now what I really kind of like about that is I like writing both characters. It's like, whose story is it? I will write their story, male, female, or otherwise.
Right.
And so I like writing both. And you will find I have books from a male point of view, and I have books from a female point of view, or sometimes in the book, both a male and female.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So both.
And that helps you grow as a writer.
I think so.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to put yourself in someone else's shoes and see what the world might be like through their perspective.
Yes,
right? That's all what writing
right.
is like.
Real fast for the people who are watching, you guys can ask questions to our guests.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you just write them on the thing, and we'll then ask them on questions.
Absolutely. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, no.
And we'll do it at any time.
Things are coming.
Oh,
Things are coming.
Okay, so deadlines cause stress. What do you do to relieve that?
Oh. I don't know. It's awful. I hate deadlines. I shouldn't. The whole world is built with deadlines, right?
Right.
It's just normal.
You live by deadlines.
Yeah. So I guess some of what I try to do is structure so that I don't have to run hard up against a deadline, because I know some writers, like, the closer they get to a deadline, the more they write and the more they're inspired, and they're like, I'm going to do it, and they get lots of energy and they really, push it to fight that deadline and to win. I'm not built like that.
Gotcha.
As the deadline comes, it's just like it's doom coming my way, and I just feel worse and worse and worse.
So do you find yourself like last minuting it, or trying to get it done ahead of time?
I try to get it done ahead of time.
Yeah, so you're not like last minute.
No, if I hate that.
Yeah,
like
me too.
I don't do well under that. Like,
Yeah.
but it was, what do I do about the stress of deadlines?
Yeah.
I try to structure it so I don't have
As
to
much.
stress out at the end of deadlines, and then I'll fail at that because I've been at this long enough to know that you will run into deadlines and you do have to do them, right? So then what I do is I just kind of break it out into, this is how much time I have, this is what I need to do, and then try to do it in those sections to get it done. And then admit when you lose, because sometimes you don't make the deadline, and just admit that can happen, and that isn't the end of your career, and you can just continue forward, right? You don't just give up if you.
So do you have books that you have written that you're not really that happy with?
That I wish I could rewrite?
Yeah, that you, because of
might
the
have touched
deadline,
on
you
something.
have to get to depth.
Yeah,
Right?
pretty much. I don't reread my books because it's weird. It's like I feel like I want to change them and make them better.
Well, I've heard actors that won't watch themselves act.
Isn't
that interesting? I mean, it's like
I could feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it must be the same.
Well,
kind of thing.
because everything you do is a learning experience,
Right.
So you might be a little more knowledgeable by the time you're done.
Right. And
Right.
I asked a writer once, Leslie Watt is her name. She had written, I can't remember what the book is right now. This is years ago, but she was in a critique group with me, and I said, are you happy with the book? Because I hadn't published novels yet, and I'm like, are you happy with the novel? And she said, I am happy that it was as good a novel I could make at that time. And I thought, oh, that is such a good way to look at it.
Well, you got to look at, like, probably directors like Steven Spielberg and stuff. They look at their old stuff and think, man, what I could do with it now. But and then you have George Lucas. He just goes and changes it anyway.
Yeah, right. He just changes it anyway.
Oh, I will change
I will
it, right?
Now, right?
But no, I'm just saying that you probably get that with a lot of people where they're like, man, it was good at the time, but now it's like kind of dated.
Well, I mean, just like you were saying with the Dragon Ride Discipline, right? It's a different generation.
Yeah, different generation.
So even sci-fi books like Asimov and and stuff like that, if you read it and stuff, it's very old school. I mean, Ray Bradbury,
Yep.
you know.
Well, and even with movies, I remember showing the kids movies that we liked, like Something Wicked This Way Done. It's paced really weird.
Yeah.
I
And
bet
our
it
kids
is.
where it's slower.
Mhm.
You know, you think of the movies, they're all paced a lot slower than what they are nowadays. Now it's like flashing all the time to keep you.
I'm old enough to know when Miami Vice was considered
See?
fast and
Exactly, right?
the MTV
Right, right, right.
generation of TV.
Exactly. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting though.
yeah. So probably I'd want to go back and read them all then. Reread them all.
I get that.
Probably.
No, I get that too.
Okay, so are you open to having a paranormal UFO or high strangeness
Okay. So
experience?
here's the truth. I would have probably even 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago said no. I don't want ghosts in my house. Like I don't want to go home around the corner and get scared.
Okay, so but what if you experience somewhere else?
So I now would say yes in limited. Like if I'm with somebody, yes, I would absolutely be
So
okay.
you would go to like a house
Yes.
and do a ghost investigation.
Yes.
Or like to a
Okay.
hotel where
Yes.
you're staying.
Like-
Because that
like your
was-
creepy clown hotel or the other one.
or maybe a hotel that you might have stayed in that there's something weird with the closet.
Freaking closet, man.
Okay.
I had the light on all night. Yeah.
Wait.
I
Well,
I-
is that the
She
experience?
did.
Okay, so Chrissy
Oh,
just asked if you've had a paranormal experience that you can remember. So this is a good
Okay, so you might as well
Okay.
tell us.
I'll tell it.
again.
I'll try to tell it short. I was going to go to a writing retreat, the Rainforest Writing Retreat, which is in by Lake Quinault in Washington. It's
Okay.
the rainforest is gorgeous,
Right.
and we have the lodge because Patrick Swinson, fabulous writer and publisher, who books it out for us. He used to work there as a teenager during the busy season, during the summers or whatever, and he knows the owners, and so he kind of asked them if he could put on a writer's retreat every year up there. And so we go up in the off season and they open up the
Oh,
place
that's
for us.
awesome.
It's great, right? It's
Cool.
fantastic. It's beautiful. I wanted to go up a little early, a couple days early, and I didn't have a room to book. So I decided to book in the historic lodge, which is right up the street, probably, I don't know, half a mile up the street or something. And it's an old, I think it was built in the 1910s or early 1900s. And like Roosevelt has been to it and a bunch of famous people have visited it. And it's when you go into it, it feels like it's National Historic Registry. So, you know, it's one of those places with log beams and, you know, beautiful work up on their beams up above. It's painted like with tooling along it and stuff, and big, huge fireplace. And it's very old school lodge that you would go off to in the middle of nowhere. It's right on the lake. Gorgeous. So I booked a room up and over by the kitchen area at the end of this long, narrow hall with just a little square window thing at the end of it that overlooks the
Did
lake.
you choose that room, or did
Yeah,
they
it was-
choose that for you?
I think it was what was open and what I
Okay.
wanted to
There
pay.
you go. I get
and
you. I get that.
And I
Okay.
wanted a view of the lake, and it had a window that you could see the lake, and it's got like the old iron water heater radiators in it. You know, it's
Yeah.
like old school, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so I get in and I'm fine, and I'm like, okay, I'm all unpacked. I've got my laptop set up. I'm going to sit in this chair and stare at the lake and write on my laptop. We're going to get some extra words in. And I'm like, oh, I should put my suitcase in the closet because that would be good. Now I'm going to back up just a second. Going up the stairs to my room, I noticed as I went down my hallway, this first room in the hallway is called like Annie's Attic or something like this. I don't remember the name, like maybe Annie's Attic. And I'm like, do they give their rooms names? Like sometimes you go someplace, it's like the salmon room, the whatever room, you know, Annie's
I've seen
attic
that
room,
before.
right?
Okay.
I'm like, okay, that's her attic. So I go down to my room. So I'm going to put my luggage in the closet. And so I go over to the closet. And my luggage is in my hand. And I open up the closet. And I have never been so instantly frightened in my life. And that is so weird because I'm old and I should not. I was looking at it. It was a closet. It was an empty, stinking
And
closet.
during the day?
During the day?
It was, evening. It wasn't night yet. It was still light outside, you know, so the evening sunlight coming in the window, goldy colors. And there's just one of those fold out thingies in there that you put your luggage on. And then it's just an empty closet. And I was terrified. And Darren, how many times have I told you in my life I've been terrified?
Yeah.
Terrified.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my heart is beating. I am sweating. I'm staring at an empty closet. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I'm a grown woman. This is ridiculous. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I am now shutting this closet door. And I slammed it and I'm like, okay. And I back away from it. The luggage is going to be just fine over here on this chair. I do not need to use that closet. And so I put the luggage over there and I'm like, all right, we're just going to come over here and write and we're going to be fine. And I wrote and did the last little thing. And then, nighttime came and I'm like, right, so now we turn off the lights and we go to bed. And
you did not turn off the lights, did you?
I did not. I got in bed and I'm like, you should just open the closet again and look, right? Make sure it's, it's a closet.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we're not going to open the closet again. We're still terrified of the closet. And so I got into bed and I'm like, just turn out the lights. So I turned off the lights and I'm like, nope, turn it right back on again. Right back on again. And I think the lights went right over the bed. So I'm like
so not.
I did not sleep. I'm like in the middle of the night, I'm like, turn the light off. Everything's fine. You're not terrified, right? And I'm like, turn the light off in the middle of the night and I'm like, nope again. And we're turning it back on.
So was that happiness when you opened it?
It was a little cold, but it was just, I was terrified of that closet. I was afraid.
You were afraid?
I was afraid something was in that closet. That's what it felt like. There's something in that closet.
So you felt a presence.
A presence.
Right.
Okay.
Which I haven't felt before in my life.
Yeah.
And so then the next morning I get up and I'm like, okay, it's morning. Let's open the closet. Let's face this. You got no sleep last night, right? You're exhausted. Open the closet. I opened the closet. It was a closet. I didn't have any of those feelings at all.
Wow.
And so then we're driving somewhere, like
we're going
later.
somewhere, and she's telling me this.
Okay.
I'm like, hey, is there anything that goes on up in that lodge? And he looks it up.
I go, oh yeah, there is.
Really?
There is a gal who worked in the kitchen, which was right below the wing where we were at. Her name was Annie, or whatever that name is, on the attic. Okay. And she had died in an accident, in a fire in the kitchen.
What happened? There was a fire, and she got locked. She couldn't get out of the closet. She couldn't get away from the fire, and she died.
Oh, in that closet?
Or maybe not that closet.
I don't know if it was that closet, but it was in there.
They say that people sometimes see her or feel her as she turns on lights and off.
And which leads me to believe that she was trapped in a fire. Mm-hmm. She was scared. And she died. Maybe the room that you saw that said Annie's room or whatever was actually the room she died in.
Yeah, it could have been.
But yet maybe she manifests different places in there. But the fact she had that, and then I found that. Because I'd never even heard of this lodge before until she told me.
And I didn't look it up to see if it was haunted before. I was just trying to get some writing done. So so there, I didn't see anything. But and this is one of those things where a lot of what people experience is just, you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's like their experience. So how real is that?
Yeah.
For me, it was 100% real.
Right, and you can't prove anything.
No.
It's just all. But yeah.
But if if I go off of my previous behavior of all the hotels I've been in my life and all the closets I've opened in my life, I've never had that experience.
Right. Interesting.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, in a way, I kind of wish I'd seen something because then I could say, and there was a ghost in there. But it's just. That feeling.
But that probably would freak you out.
Oh, I would have left. Yeah. I would have left.
That would have been the last time she's at that lodge. So the last thing I have is tell us about your newest books.
Newest books. I brought them. And
all right.
What's kind of funny is this one. I'll hold up the camera. Look in the camera. Can you see it? Yeah.
Can you see it? Do we need to walk it closer?
Probably not. You can probably see it. I know there's a little bit of a delay, but this is The Brood of All Evil. Mm-hmm. It's the 9th book in the Ordinary Magic series. These are the ones set on the Oregon coast, in a little town of Ordinary Oregon, where the gods put down their powers to vacation, and all the town is filled with monsters. There is a not for resale band across it.
Can you see it?
Hang on.
Which is pretty funny.
Let me see. Just give it a second.
We're watching the replay here.
We can see it. That's
good. Anyways. The not for sale band, because this is a proof copy that I get in to make sure that the book is printing okay. And they do this so that nobody resells them. So you will, if somebody buys this, they will not get the
special band on it. Okay.
Yeah, that just came out in June, and then this came out. This is Wayward Moon. This is the Route 66 where the star-crossed lovers are traveling down the road, and that has the different monsters from different places on Route 66.
Sweet.
And stuff like that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you're good.
That's good. And those are my 2 newest books that are out. This one I think was in, December or something of last year.
So where can you find them?
You should be able to find them anywhere. They're definitely online. They're ebooks. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Nook, and Apple, or iBooks, or whatever they're calling now, Apple Books. And you can get the print copy through Amazon or any of your print places. You can ask your bookstores to order them in. And also you can ask your libraries to order them in. And I think our library has them. So you can get them anywhere. If you want a list of all of my books, it would be on my webpage. I have them all listed.
And we've got it linked down below.
Good.
On our page,
which
too,
is
you can go to.
DevonMonk.com.
Yeah, pretty easy.
Yeah.
I made it simple.
Yeah, pretty easy. So, just curious, are any of your books on audiobooks?
Yes, and different ones are on different audio. So the Ordinary Magic series, the ones where the gods are on vacation to a little beach town, those are, you can find the first, I think, 3 or 6 of those on Audible. But Graphic Audio, which is a team that, a great company, love them. Thank you, Graphic Audio. You're fantastic. Who actually has different actors for each character, and they do sound effects in the background. They do it like a stage play.
Oh,
like
really?
A radio
really?
play.
I've never even heard of this.
Books?
They do my books.
Oh, that's awesome. I've never even heard of this.
They're great.
I'll
Graphic Audio.
out.
They have a lot of other books on there too.
Oh, that's
They're
cool.
awesome. And so they have the Ordinary Magic books, and they have the Souls of the Road, the Wayward
That's
Moon
cool.
books.
I didn't know about that.
That's cool.
Very
because one thing I love to go see at like conferences and stuff is they call it the mystery of the mind, and it's a radio version. It's a wall to world style version where they do all this sound effects.
It's basically that. Yeah, and they've been fantastic to work with, and I've really enjoyed. They've been great. They've been great.
All right, so now that we know that UFOs completely freak you out, we gave you a job to do because we knew it would completely freak you out. We had you watch a documentary about Betty and Barney Hill. Although I knew it wasn't too bad, but we had you watch that documentary.
Yes.
So
the first question I have on this: did you know about them at all before?
Not really. I remember hearing from other adults when I was younger, around when it had happened, because I'm old enough was it in 60?
It was like 68.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was. It was. I'm born after. I was a wee baby, but I did hear people talking kind of about it, but not Barney and Betty Hill, because I would remember that because it sounds like the Flintstones.
Not Rebel, but
and no really details. So not really. Yeah.
Okay, so have you ever watched a UFO or paranormal documentary before?
I mean, I've watched some like Ancient Aliens and
those
some of
things,
those kinds
right?
of things. Yeah.
So, what did you think of this documentary? Just your personal view of the entire documentary, how it was made.
Okay, so I liked how the documentary was made. Actually, I thought it told the story without. I know it had a little hype in it, where they had actors kind of act out some scenes, but it told it mostly without a lot of frou-frou and hype. They weren't trying to, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. Like, they weren't trying to go so much for the drama. I thought they were trying to get, here's the information that we have. This is what we know.
And one of the things I thought was coolest of this one that you don't see in a lot of documentaries was you have their voices when they were interviewed on the radio. You're literally hearing it from their mouth when they're telling their story. So it's not me telling their story, they're telling their story.
I like that.
So that was really cool.
You haven't really heard of it and stuff and watched the documentary. So just do Reader's Digest of what happened.
What I heard. Okay, so this is a couple, interracial couple, black man, white woman, back in the early or mid 60s, toward the late 60s, who she was a social worker and he was, I don't know what his postal worker, but very involved in the civil rights movement.
Yes.
Right. And so speaker and stuff in that. And they were driving home from their honeymoon on deserted roads, trying to outrun what they thought was a hurricane weather coming in. So they were all alone on the road. And they encountered a light that they could not explain, and they lost a chunk of time. And as other things started adding up, that they realized, like, her dress had gotten torn and they lost more time than they thought. And other things that happened, they realized that they had encountered a spacecraft, an unidentified, that was seen on radar, that was corroborated on radar and corroborated
for
by
like
other witnesses.
days before.
Right, that,
even.
you know, was seen by other witnesses and all that sort of thing, and that they interacted with what we called the astronauts on that spacecraft. And I thought they did a good job. I didn't realize that they were the first ones who had ever said that they had abducted, that the people aboard or the whatever had grayish skin and were in black uniforms and had whiter eyes. And I didn't realize that they were the beginning of what now everybody knows are little gray men. Like that's so common now, but they were the first ones to say that kind of thing. So right.
And then Communion came out with what they looked like.
Right.
Stuff. One of the things that's interesting is that Betty was interested in UFOs and stuff.
Everybody was back then.
But he wasn't.
Right.
He
My
was,
Favorite Martian, the
he was
everybody was interested.
And for people who don't know the story and stuff, they just saw light. It went away, then it came back, and then it hovered around the car and stuff. He got out.
Yeah. It had followed him for 30 miles. That's something.
I know. And then he got out with his binoculars.
Yeah.
And he said he could see
people in windows.
In the windows.
And I thought something else that he said that was interesting is he kept hearing in his mind, keep looking. It was holding them there. He was like, it was telling them there, which is interesting. Just to go back to like the fire in the sky one, which we didn't have.
Thank you.
Yeah. They like draw you once you're noticed or something. They like draw you, and so they, for whatever reason, wanted him to still pay attention.
Right.
Keep looking through your binoculars.
Right.
Keep doing this, and so I
but you know, the interviewer asked them several years later on the radio, and they had the tape of it, like you said, where he said, "Well, you know, we call these people, what do you call them now, abductees or something like contactees?" And he said, and they all feel like they were chosen, like anyone who has ever contacted, but feels like they're chosen. It's like, do you feel like you're chosen? And Barney said, "No, sir." He said, "You know, we were on the road and we were the only ones out there, and we kept getting in and out of the car, turning on our dome light and stuff. And we think we drew notice to ourselves." But I thought that's an interesting point where it's like, he wasn't looking for the fame. It worked against him in his civil rights.
That's the last thing they needed to happen.
Didn't need that and didn't want, I mean, I know what was interesting is that they did sort of end up having to kind of step up and accept that that's what they were known for.
Yeah.
And, I do hope that, he was on like a TV show or something. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
But I remember.
It's one of those talk
they were all the same. I'm Barney Hill. They were all Barney Hills, but they were different Barney Hills. Yeah.
So I hope they got, he did get paid money after that. But that was years later. It wasn't like they were, we got abducted by aliens and now paid
matter of fact,
it
stayed in this real small circle for a long time. And then a media thing that came out that republished it actually broke it nationwide and got bigger after that. Because it was actually a small circle that even knew about it for a long time.
Well, and what's interesting with abductees and stuff and experiences is that if your story comes out and stuff, you have to at some point come out and be a little more vocal.
Or maybe just completely ignore people.
Well, and I thought what was cool is also this is Kathleen, the niece, right?
Kathleen Monk,
and she really told the story, and we saw her at the UFO festival.
Now I know who she is.
Yeah. And which is really cool.
And
but
she's an experience
herself.
She seemed very reliable. I thought she seemed very. She's like, I want the records of what people had at that time because I want to look over the documents. And I'm like, I want to look over the documents too.
And I loved her bringing up the car and the marks on the car and what it would do to the compass, and all of those things were really interesting and reliable. And
I found this documentary. It went into story more.
Yeah.
And I hate the whole abduction crap that they have to do, and I understand why they have to. But because I would, every time I hear that story and I've heard it a lot and stuff. They always play the same reduction audio.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to hear all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And really, you can go
Right.
online and find it
Right.
if you want to.
Right.
but-
Well, I did find some things were interesting. They brought in the person that hypnotized them.
Mm.
He was interesting. They also brought in the teacher that found the star system where they said they came from.
That was
she
really
drew.
cool.
So that was interesting too,
well,
right?
she was a student.
Yeah, she was.
Wasn't she?
Yeah.
She ended up being a teacher.
Teacher,
She's
but-
like a part of Mensa. Like she's
Yeah.
an incredibly intelligent woman,
Yeah.
and she took like, I mean, back then they just got like astronomy maps. It wasn't like you can go online
Yeah.
and look up what the
And
stars are.
she, didn't they say it took her like
14 models.
Yeah.
Where she would hang beads off a fishing line
and try to
figure
find out
what-
where the constellation was.
And
Can you
which
imagine
is
that?
amazing.
That would painstakingly drive me
It's
nuts.
a hobby. I think it's a hobby. Like, you know, if you love it, you love it. But,
Well, and
Yeah.
also when that came out, the star map and stuff, because the thing was is her regression is where she brought the
Right.
information about the star map.
Right.
And so when the star map, when I
remember.
forgot her name,
Yeah.
but when she found that and
Yeah.
stuff, that's what really started the story. And UFO researchers dug even deeper into that. That's when Stanton Freeman
Right.
got involved, and he was with him for years upon years
Right.
and stuff. And his book about the case is one of the best.
Oh, nice.
Well, and I like Ben Hansen. I've watched Ben Hansen's got
Mm-hmm.
his hands in a lot. He was the guy that went and he got the dress and they turned it
Oh,
inside
yeah.
out. It had been tested on the outside, but not on the inside.
He was ex-FBI.
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought that them retesting it and them finding the
Fluids
from her navel, because it was higher up. The only other time you could get that is menstrual, but they wouldn't have been that high.
Mm-mm.
And so that was another thing, because she never wore that dress again after that. Then she never wanted to put
Yeah,
it
ask me if
back
I'm going
on.
back to that room at the Lake
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, see-
Or I won't use the
we
closet.
would go.
You can
Yeah,
have
we
her
would
stay
know
over.
that. So I thought also it was a really
Well,
good
and what I liked is
documentary.
when they found the star system, because you're talking about that,
Yeah.
they said that that's a place where a lot of exoplanets are possible.
Right, exactly.
It is an actual
It is
kind
a
of
life,
possible life.
Zeta reticuli.
Reticuli, yeah. It's in
Yeah,
the southern
that
sky.
area has always
It's
been.
always been a hot spot there.
Yeah,
People have
but
always
they-
talked about it.
There's a lot experiences
Yeah.
that talk about that region.
So we appreciate that you watched that.
I
Thank you.
I didn't mind watching it. It wasn't scary. I enjoyed myself. I was just knitting and drinking coffee and watching it. It was good.
Well, we are more preliminary.
Well, if
Yeah.
you want me to watch something else,
I know.
I can watch something else.
Yeah.
Not the scary stuff. But yeah, no, I thought it was really interesting. And for me, I was born in the late 60s, but there was a UFO craze. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a lot.
For sure.
But the information all came out in books. Like I read those
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
paperbacks
Yep.
about the Loch Ness Monster
Right.
and the Bermuda Triangle and all that stuff, where people were trying to figure it out. And it wasn't, the information came in such dribs and drabs that you were kind of piecing it together. And it's kind of neat to see it all pieced together, all put together in
Right.
one place to kind of deliver the whole story. That was nice.
Yeah, it's, that's one of the better cases because
It
they
is.
haven't found holes.
Well,
in
what's
it.
interesting is they never changed their story. They never were out for the attention.
They didn't want the attention.
It really did them,
No
no
good.
favors. And
The military have documentations of seeing it, something in the sky on that day.
right,
Well,
and for me,
Yeah.
so I'm a little bit of I used to be, yes, absolutely UFOs and aliens. And then I was like, maybe not, maybe more like experimental aircraft and more Earth
Or
military
maybe.
stuff. And now I'm kind of like, I could be convinced. So so what's interestingly convincing about this is those things that we just said. And also that, I totally lost my train of thought. The other thing that is kind of convincing about it is that not only did they not get anything out of it, but why would the military stop these two random people to do these things?
Exactly.
He wasn't so high in the civil rights movement that they needed to take him down by having an
Yeah,
alien pick him
right.
up. That
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. I mean,
Yeah,
they could
right.
have done many
and he
other
was in the
things.
war.
Yeah,
He had been in the
exactly.
military to
So
World
there's
War
just
II.
no reason. I couldn't see any reason why any government would do this. Like,
Yeah.
They didn't.
Yeah,
nothing
why
came-
would they pick those people?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no, like, they could have picked many other people anywhere out.
Well, and then there's something, the missing time. This was the first time that there was missing time recorded.
Exactly.
2 hours
Right.
of missing time,
Right.
matter of fact. That's a lot of
That's a lot
missing
of time.
time.
Well, the thing is there's a lot of stories through history of missing time before that, but this was like documented, right?
Right.
Not just a
because they knew
Yeah.
where they were and they were
They knew-
driving,
yeah, they
and
knew where
they were on the
showed up,
road and
when
how
the
long
sun
it
came
took to
up.
get to town.
and that's why I think the 3 most acclaimed abduction stories is that Travis Walton, which has a lot
Fire
of
in the sky.
parallel,
Fire in the sky.
right?
Yeah.
See, but
I just remember seeing the screaming on the trailer and
Okay.
getting dragged off to a UFO, and I don't think so.
yeah, but the thing is,
Yeah,
is
but
that
he screamed and
No,
got dragged off to a UFO.
the Hollywood movie.
Yeah,
Once he
okay,
got on the
yeah.
ship, that was
That was all
Hollywood.
fictional. They
The real story
What
was
led
not
this-
the film.
although Fire in the Sky, the movie was great up to the time when he got abducted. It was pretty true, and
Yeah.
even afterwards, that whole abduction scene was Hollywood had to make
Mhm.
something up.
And I have a whole
Dramatic.
story of why
Yeah.
that was changed.
And then what was your
stuff
other? You
like
said
that.
3. That was 2.
The Barney
Barney
and
Hill.
Hill, and then Whitley Strieber,
yeah, which is Communion.
which
Oh,
is
okay.
Communion.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we saw him too at UFO Festival.
And
Whitley
Whitley
Strieber.
sounds a little more tough.
Yeah, that one's more
Oh,
terrifying.
good. So I won't watch that.
Yeah, because I mean,
No,
even
we'll
to
go
this,
show
you
yeah,
that.
no,
Watch that one.
no, that one is actually more traumatic, especially if
Yeah.
that's true. So, which I believe a lot of what he says.
Yeah,
It's very.
It comes down to that
Things
thing,
still
right? Is
help,
there any
yeah.
reason why that person would make this up to tell you this?
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
do you believe that
exactly.
that's their
Even with
experience?
him being an author at the time,
Yeah,
you know, he was writing books
Yeah.
and screenplays
right.
before this
Right.
happened.
Right.
And then, you know, after this happened, it just changed this whole writing career. Why would a person do that, for one thing?
I have no
Right.
idea.
I wouldn't.
And then,
I'm never gonna say I saw
and then
UFO.
there's so much documentation.
There really is.
Because there were other people around
No.
when they happened.
Right. So you
His
have
wife
corroborated.
and
Yeah.
everything. So, yeah, no, very cool.
Very
So I enjoyed watching it. Thank you for easing me in gently
Yeah,
here.
no problem.
You know,
UFO
the
thing.
next thing you need to watch is the 70s movie with James Earl Jones
Oh,
about that.
oh,
Yeah.
that sounds like it's
James
high quality.
Earl Jones is Barney.
Okay, no,
Barney.
he's a great
Yeah.
actor. Like, is it a good movie?
Uh,
It's
I
70s.
haven't
It's a
seen it
70s
for
movie.
so
I haven't
long.
either. I bet you it's dated a little bit.
It
Probably not as
is-
good as this documentary, I
Yeah.
guess.
Still James Earl.
Yeah.
Oh,
James
no,
Earl
no,
Jones,
no,
right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, I guess the next thing we have, I could talk about our vacation trip. You guys want to hear about this?
Yes.
Okay. So I told you on one of our previous shows that I was taking a trip through Nevada and Arizona with my wife, and our son came with us too. And so basically, we drove the first day from Salem, clear down to Tonopah. And actually, we stopped in Reno, and daughter went off with her boyfriend. But anyhow, we ended up going to Tonopah, and that's where the Clown Hotel is. We did not stay at the Clown Hotel, obviously.
See, I'd stay at the Clown Hotel. I'm not
Well,
afraid of
we
clowns.
didn't. We didn't.
Alien clowns, maybe.
But so we got there, and actually, when we showed up, not really paranormal, but weird. They were having like 70-mile-per-hour gusts. It wasn't, but it was high winds. I mean, literally, when we went to fuel up, you know, it was crazy. So really high winds for that day. It was some of the highest they've recorded on that day, which is just weird. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything. It's just odd.
Yeah.
But so we got there, we had dinner, we woke up in the morning, and it was a little cool. But first place we were going was the extraterrestrial highway. So
Nice.
the first thing you notice when you go to the extraterrestrial highway is the long. You could see the road forever, and it goes up into the hills, you know, from one side to the other. it's impressive to
Yeah.
be able to see that far.
It's that
You know, especially-
Americana,
Right.
It's
And you've
huge.
seen movies use it, but it's weird driving it. You're realizing how far you're actually
Are we still
seeing.
driving?
I know
We're not
it's
getting
just
any
it's
closer.
and it's pretty straight. So those are really cool pictures. And then you get to the extraterrestrial highway and you can't miss it because there's a big sign and there's stickers all over the sign, which they remove all the time. And there's always new stickers.
Did you put a
on it.
sticker on it?
No, but
Oh.
there's tons of stickers on it. So we got some cool pictures of that and went down the highway. It's a really interesting feel. It feels very in the middle of nowhere that you're
Well,
driving
it
with
is.
mountains. It is. And so didn't see anything UFO wise, but we ended up going to a town called Rachel, which is where the shirt is, a little alien.
Nice.
And there's a picture, they've got like a tow truck with a UFO on it and stuff. And you go in there and they got burgers and it's a whole shop. And it's really, that's the only thing there at this little place. People get married there. There was a wedding going on while we
awesome.
went there.
Were they wearing regular wedding
Yeah,
clothes?
and the preacher marries him. He gets in an alien suit.
Oh,
He
that's
marries him.
sweet.
So and there were people from all over. There were people from France while we were there. And so anyhow, we're sitting there, we're talking. And I talked to the lady that was running it. And she asked where we were from. And I said, Salem, Oregon. And she goes, my family runs this, but I went up and moved to Kaiser. She was up here, which Kaiser's right next to Salem, if you don't
Sister
know.
city, yeah.
Yeah. And so she was up here. She knew she went to Shemeketa.
Our community college.
Yeah, community college. So it was like, I'm in the middle of nowhere in Nevada.
You
and
run
here's
into a
this-
neighbor.
I'm like, oh, so she knows all the places. But she said, the weather was too rainy for her and she moved back
Very
down.
gray.
Which, if you want dry and sunny, that's where you want to go because it's not up here. But anyhow, so that was interesting. And then we went on from there and we drove the rest of the way. And it was interesting. We stopped by the place where it says do not take photographs, which
Did you?
Area 51, not just took pictures of the sign that says do not take photographs. But on the big tall alien, and it's where the museum there, it's where I don't know if you guys remember a few years back where people were just going to rush Area 51.
They're going to run like Naruto.
Yeah, they were going to just all,
Naruto.
right, it had all the posters and the stuff from when they decided that they were all going to, which really didn't happen. Just a few people showed up. Nobody
Still
actually
fake.
really did it. I do think it was funny that they thought they might do it.
Area 51's quite a ways. Like,
It's
you
a
can't
long
just
distance.
run from the road.
I know it
No.
would have taken a while. So anyhow, but
And
there's
then
that at the
the
museum.
fence is so far
Yeah.
away from the
Yeah,
culture,
how are you gonna? Yeah.
you know?
And there's this real tall alien guy that they've constructed. He's huge, 60 feet tall, maybe taller over the building. So that was interesting, more of your kind of your Route 66 kind of stuff.
kitsch.
Philly, yeah, right. And so we went on to there, stayed in this little place called Alamo. And there's a store station and a motel. And
So
there's
no
Alamo.
big cities really along.
No,
Not
no.
any towns.
It's
Just
no.
kind of little hubs.
So Alamo was kind of cool there, and I visited with somebody else that was on the trip, but I got out. It was actually the only time I got to see the night sky. It clouded up with potential thunderstorms every night. But that night I was out and I got to see some stars, but it was a lot of light pollution because they have a lot of lights at the motel we were staying at. So there was that problem. But that was interesting. It was a small little town. And then we drove from there. We went on into Arizona and to the big Meteor Crater, which
Newberry Crater. Is that what it's called?
no,
That's our crater.
that's our crater.
What's theirs
Meteor
called?
Crater.
Is it just called Meteor,
Meteor
Crater?
Crater.
That was,
Very
Yeah, that's-
descriptive.
Let you know what it is,
It
yeah.
is Meteor Crater.
That's the Stallman.
I've been there
crater.
once.
Yeah.
With the
What did
installment.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
it?
And
What
so-
did you think?
I thought it was neat. It was interesting. The wind was also extremely
When we
high
went by,
winds
the wind
there.
was really high too. But what I found fascinating when we went by on our Route 66, we stopped off there.
Yeah.
We didn't do the tour because we got there too late.
Okay.
But how they say, like, if you look through these binoculars,
Yeah.
there's a 7-foot tall whatever down
Right,
there.
and it looks like nothing.
And it looks like it's barely the
Yeah.
size of a piece of rice. So
Right.
that gives you the idea of the
The
expanse of that.
Yeah, so you go through in the museum setup real nice. There's a lot of stuff in there and a lot of history about it. You walk around and then, of course, you go out, and then they got like one of the capsules that went to the moon, and the guy in a spacesuit, and a little alien. But you go out to the crater, and you can walk down. It goes to different sections and stuff, and you can see it from different angles. And one of the things is it says, you look through this thing. It says this boulder's the size of a house, and the boulder doesn't look very big.
Looks like
Because it's so dwarfed inside. You realize how big this thing really is. When you're looking at it, makes it look smaller. You don't realize this thing is not small. It's humongous.
It's massive.
I couldn't imagine what that was. But I have something that's going to link to this meteor crater.
What?
So, and I'll tell you in a little bit.
It's
interesting. So about the explosion.
Bye, guys.
About the explosion. So this is the meteor craters outside of Winslow.
Right.
Which we also went later after that. We went on the corner of Winslow and ended up getting our picture taken, but then ended up getting stuck there taking lots of people's pictures because couples kept coming up and were taking pictures. Most photographed corner. So that's on your Route 66. It's all part of
it was great. Actually,
you got it. If you're there, you got to do it.
You got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was fine. So then we went on and we were staying at Holbrook, which is closer to the New Mexico border.
Okay.
And from there we went. After that, we went and we saw the Painted Hills and the Petrified Forest. We hiked the trails. We went through all of that, and that was neat. I would recommend it if anybody's around there. It was well worth it.
Only one part we did the Purple Hills or the Blue Hills or
the Painted Hills.
Yeah, just the Blue Valley or Purple Valley.
Yeah, did you go to the Petrified Forest?
We didn't go over there. We were driving the road so fast we could only do
the
one.
Petrified Forest was really cool. I expected some, but there's whole trees. That's big around. The whole trees, that are petrified.
And the inside of them look like opals on
they've crystallized, and there's just beautiful colors in
gorgeous.
And it was worth it. It was hot.
I was going to say,
it was
hot
nice.
as heck.
Yeah, it was hot, but it was worth hiking it. You just take lots of water, and I carried water in the backpack. We did all that, which was really cool. But then the next day, what we were getting up to do, which was one of the things that I wanted to do the most, saw it on Ancient Aliens, it was Rock Art Ranch. And Rock Art Ranch, if you had one thing to do in Arizona, I would say pay and do this. It was the most amazing, best place that I'd been on our trip. It was amazing. So you drive from Holbrook. It's not that far. It's like 35 minutes, but you literally are driving 35 minutes in the middle of nowhere. It's a working ranch on all this acreage.
Are they ranching cows or sheep?
Cows. So we drove up to this fence, and there was another couple waiting there. It's locked. You got to wait for them. They open up at like 10, and they only run like Wednesday to the weekend or something. On Monday and Tuesday or something like that. But anyhow, so we get there, and other couples show up, and y'all sit there and visit. And I'm almost wondering if they kind of do that on purpose. It makes you end up talking to whoever you're going.
Yeah.
We were the only ones that weren't like locally area. Most of them were from Arizona that were visiting that. We were out of state. But anyhow, we went in, and you drive in, you get greeted by a bunch of dogs they have. They've got petrified wood all over the place. They take you into this big, huge, which is like a barn. And it's got all kinds of old-time stuff, like old bed frames, old stuff they found on the ranch. They have a whole place with all the original pottery and all that kind of stuff that they found from the Hopi people and the Navajo and all that. They have one of the best. They've had it ranked. It's one of the best, most complete.
I've got to step away.
That's fine. Sets that they had anywhere, and so that's real cool. But you're visiting, you're walking around, and
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
He doesn't have COVID. He just has allergies.
His allergies and he's coughing.
Sorry.
Anyhow, just so you know. But no, it was really cool. You get to sit there, and they've because of COVID, they have you sit there with a video. They used to do it in person, and you're listening to the older gentleman that was there. It's 3 generations are running it right now, and he's in his 80s. And so he did this video, and then he goes through and he talks about all the different pottery and all the different like grinding stones that they found and all this stuff. And he moved there when he was 11. His parents bought property, And he has always found. So one of the first things he found was a piece of pottery, and it fell out of the bank of a bank of sand. And he brought it and he set it outside. And one thing that you learned right off the bat is it warped and melted from being cooled in the dirt, bringing up the hot. So then he learned how to preserve all those stuff, and he did that. I just think it's amazing that an 11-year-old kid would go to the trouble, but he's done it his entire life, preserving all this, as well as they brought the land, the Navajo back in that were on there. And one of the pictures is of this lady that was Navajo that just passed away just like 2 months ago. But she had brought they brought her back on the land, all the mud huts and all the things that they did, they brought teaching the kids and all that is what she was doing. She was a very short lady. She was maybe 5 foot, but she was 116 years old. Now, he says if you don't believe that was her age, which there's no way to really tell, he says her kids are older than me and I'm in my 80s. So she's super old.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so all those traditions, right? So anyhow, they tell you all about this. You get to meet him. He's a neat guy, definitely worth visiting. The daughter and the granddaughter take you out and you go and see the sites, they bring colleges in that do excavations and they find all this stuff. So they've got the colleges in there. They've got the actual native people in there doing their stuff. And they take you out to what's called the Petrified area. And it's just this canyon that they let you go down in, and you literally drop down into the bottom of this canyon where there's water. And on all the different cliffs in this small area, there's petroglyphs. What's interesting about it is I asked why there isn't any way down or up. There's none. They've looked, because this was the only place that the people could get down the ridge to get the water that they were getting. Because they weren't living down there. They were living at the high points where they could see, but they were carrying their things. And that's why all their pottery, they are round and then they come really small so that they could carry the water up.
Oh, with handles.
I still couldn't imagine carrying water out of those canyons. Right. But anyhow, tons of petroglyphs. So they tell you there's certain areas to go down, and you go down. We went down with the group, and there were awesome. You see all their drawings of like people and deer and animals and beaver and all that kind of stuff. But then you see drawings that make no sense, that look like, I mean, they're drawing things they know on everything else, but then you're seeing things that look alien or just don't look normal. And so a lot of also,
I was seeing something.
Yeah, right? They do. And you see a lot of spirals, which is something that they find everywhere. And those are always like portals or things like that. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And you'll find it in Africa and Australia. It's like something that's universal, which is it's bizarre.
Was there a lot of modern graffiti over it, or was it well preserved?
Well preserved.
Good.
They control this ranch.
Oh, good.
So nobody can come in there. The whole time they preserved it. So this is all preserved, and they just started bringing people in. And so literally there was 8 of us. And so you go down, and basically they tell you where to go, and you're way down in this hole, and you're going around. They just leave you there and tell you how to get out and lock the gate until the last people out.
So you're trusting them.
Yeah, but there was nobody breaks it. I mean, it's a ranch, so that's high security. They keep it. Awesome. So one of the things was they also had a team there that was excavating this area, and because somebody asked if they found a body, but they found one, and it was they brought it to him in a bag and said that they found obviously a child, and they asked what he wanted. He told them to put it right back where they got it, and they had a girl team excavating in that area, and they made a nice little memorial to this. But they had to test it from it was from the 1500s.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it really old. Yeah. And that 2.5, 3 years old.
Oh, little.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I liked that. Even he said like there's this castle area where there was a bunch of bodies found, Hopi bodies, and they had them on display. And then a few years ago, maybe in the 2000s, sometimes early 2000s, they decided to bury them all back in the
Yeah.
burial, give them
Yeah.
a proper burial,
Yeah.
which I think is really great.
I like-
Why having them on display,
Yeah,
put them back where they
exactly.
belong, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really good. So Rock Art Ranch is really cool. Well, one of the things is they took us over the mud hut. You remember I told you something about Meteor Crater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's your thing.
Okay.
So I'm walking around,
Okay.
and I'm talking first of all to the lady, the daughter, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I went to U of O." I went, "What?" She went to University of Oregon.
All right.
Too rainy, so she came back.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah, that's in
But she
Utah.
went,
Yeah.
and that's where she learned
Right.
all the stuff that she's using today on this ranch. And yeah, I reached down and I looked at a rock that was interesting on the ground. I just wanted it looked different to me. So I reached and I picked it up, and she goes, "You picked that up, huh?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "I'm not supposed to say anything, but we had a geology team out here, and they picked this up, and they said those pieces are from Meteor Crater. When it hit
That crater.
that crater, that's debris that went that far. And this is Winslow to Holbrook. Look how far that is. That is a long distance,
It's not like 100 miles.
like
or
80 miles. And so that's 80 miles. And I'm picking up pieces.
Big.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Must
I went to put it back down, and she goes, "No, keep it." And so I brought some of it home. I got some
Nice.
upstairs.
Oh,
But
that's
anyhow,
very cool.
so it's part of
That's
Meteor
awesome.
Crater, because while you're at Meteor Crater, you can't be taking
No, you
things
can't take
out of Meteor Crater.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to take anything from the ranch either, but she told me I could.
Oh, that's
But they don't want to. That's not something they're pushing. They're like,
Right.
"Hey, this is from Meteor Crater. Come look at these rocks."
right.
Yeah.
No.
I happen to notice it because I look at rocks.
Yes. Yes.
One other thing I like to
Good
do.
hobby.
So anyhow, there's that.
Very cool.
So then after that, we went on and we went to Sedona. That was really cool. I learned about the Kachina. You've heard of Kachina dolls. That's another one of the things that they did. A Hopi thing, by the way, too. That's also in the area. But they have what they call the Kachina lady, and it's this column cliff that looks like a lady with like a head thing on her head, or a boat or something on her head. And so they call it the Kachina woman, and it's very spiritual. It's very like people will hike up to it for, like, if you want, people will, like, a wishing thing.
Oh, okay.
Like people say, "I want lots of money back on my taxes." So they go up there to the Kachina woman.
I like it.
Well, and they say that people swear that kind of stuff happens. Well,
Nice.
one of the legends behind it, and I'm going to dive in and I'll tell more about the story because I want to find out all the history on it, is they said that as long as the Kachina woman stands, Sedona will survive. But the minute the Kachina woman falls, that it will go into an everlasting darkness.
Oh dear.
So one thing that happened is back in 2007-ish, somewhere around there, they had a big earthquake, and it shook the ground. And so what happened is everybody was freaking the heck out. They all drove out to Kachina woman. Well, Kachina woman, on the way up to that lady, there's a road to a real ritzy, you got to be Hollywoodish people ranch entrance. They plugged the road because so many people were coming out, seeing if Kachina fell. Because if she fell, everybody would freak out. It was fine, obviously, but it was all over the papers. I
Okay, so I
walked
have to
up
ask
the road.
this. Did you walk up to Kachina woman?
We didn't, because it was on a
Oh,
turn.
I was gonna say,
We
did
were
you
on a
make a
turn.
wish? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, but it's like a 45-minute hike up there. But that's definitely something. If I'm back in Sedona, there's a lot of different areas to hike up to. That's one of them that I definitely want to do.
Yeah.
The guy that we did the tour with, he's been up to there and he really liked the area.
Is she the kind of
Vortex-ish.
wish giver that, like, is a tricky monkey paw wish giver? Like, I wish to live forever, and then you're in a coma forever or something. Okay.
No, everything's good that comes
Good,
from
that
her
comes
as
from her.
far
Okay,
as that.
okay.
But you definitely want her standing.
Yes.
You don't want that to fall,
No.
apparently, I guess, according to that. Well, anyhow, from there, we ended up back in Tonopah. But we went by a couple other things. We went by a place that's called the Air Museum. And the Air Museum was a really weird place. It's got like those wraith looking like from Lord of the Rings in white. And
They're all
like,
statues.
and there's
that are
like
kinda hollow.
yeah.
It's artwork.
It's
so
outside
kind of
artwork.
Like outside artwork, but instead of like doing a person
Yeah.
statue, they do like the outside shape of a person with
Yeah.
no person inside.
You can take pictures of it. It's free. It's something.
It's
It's like a Route
Yeah.
66.
Yeah.
Kind of like. That was interesting. But then went back to Tonopah, and one of the things we did do, I can't believe it, we got my wife Chrissy into the Clown Museum. I hadn't been actually in it before.
I wish you would have videotaped that or videoed it. No,
It was interesting. She was not pleased.
Sorry,
It is kind of
Chrissy.
strange. There is.
Going in the
I know. There are so many small, weird clown things. And then we, of course, went to the graveyard, which is right against it. You can't be any closer.
Clown Motel Graveyard. Clown Motel Graveyard.
The graveyard.
Could
is-
you match a book?
I don't know who decided which came first.
I know.
Yeah.
I need to.
Somebody had a sense of humor.
Maybe I need to look at that. I don't know if I'm guessing the graveyard was there first because they've got people there.
And then did they
that are from
think
the
this needs a
Civil
Clown
War.
Motel?
I know. I guess, right? Because they have like Confederate people buried there,
Oh yeah.
which is interesting.
Sure.
So anyhow, so there was that. But then we went into after that, we woke up the next day, we drove up and we went to Virginia City. And Virginia City was really cool. We stayed at one of the oldest hotels up there.
Is this
the
the story I've
Gold
been
Hill.
looking forward to?
I think this is a story you're looking
If you
forward
have
to.
all decided to tune out or do something else, or you're kind of done watching, this is what I would say. This is what you should tune in for, because I believe this is quite an interesting
Okay,
story.
so first of all, we went to the Mackey Mansion. The Mackey Mansion's this guy who basically reopened up some mines to get silver, ended up hitting the most silver out of anybody. And this is his house. And the silver from that mine is basically why the Union was able to win the Civil War, because that money financed it. If it wasn't for their mine,
That silver
we
mine.
wouldn't have been able to have the money to win that war. So there was a big thing. Well, Grant even came out to there after his presidency and saw the mansion. So there's pictures of it. We went through there. They take you on the tour. It's high. It's really a very haunted. You have a lot of weird feelings in it. They have
Did you have a lot of weird feelings walking into it?
you can feel it. There's a lot of artifacts, though. It's a lot of history,
Mhm.
and it's also like toxic. You can't touch the wallpaper. It's got like
Oh, they
arsenic
used to use
in it.
arsenic and stuff. Yeah.
And like they even have a melting pot that has mercury and arsenic in it. You can't touch certain things. So it's not only that, but
Come
it's
to our
also
motel,
toxic.
It's
Yeah.
poisonous.
I know. But one of the things is
Back
back in the
Oh,
90s, one of the stories is back in the 90s, Johnny Depp was filming a movie and he said, I want to stay there. So they let him stay here and he stayed in the Mackey room upstairs. And he was supposed to be there for a month. But on the third day, he woke up with a small girl, jumping up and down on his bed, freaked out, ran out of the room, and made his movie people, his crew, go in there, get his stuff, and that was the last time he was at that place.
Not a girl he knew.
So
not
a little
real
girl
girl.
scared Johnny Depp away, as they say.
That's funny.
So apparently,
A ghost, though, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
who woke up- yeah.
also Ghost Adventures has been there, and I won't go into that as much, but there was one place they weren't supposed to go, which is in the attic. It's locked. And they kept trying to break into it, and one of them got tossed down the stairs. So apparently you
Good
need to
idea.
listen to the rules.
Yeah.
But anyhow, also been saying that may be some place where I might be able to go back to. So
I would love to see an
so they
investigation
actually
there.
That
said
would
that
be-
they would.
So were they open to you? Maybe.
Yeah. Matter of fact, they've come and they found my page, and I've been on their page.
So I am looking forward to when you two are going to plan
That
this.
would
because
be-
I
Yeah,
want to
Virginia
tune in.
City,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
On another thing, we did other things in Virginia City, but this is the story you want to hear. So we stayed at what's called the Gold Hill Hotel. And it was the first hotel up there because when the first guy who came up here to do mining up there, they were looking for gold, and they didn't realize that all this stuff they were getting was silver. But that's where this hotel came from, and it's got like a nice bar. But let me tell you, this is old and
You
The
said
bed.
if you put a
Yeah.
ball on one side of the room, it would roll.
the floors are slanted. You fall into the shower. You have to climb out of it. It's the only level place is the toilet. So
Well, at least
which is
you got-
nice. The toilet's level.
That's
They've redone the door, so it's interesting. So anyhow, we're there. We had been
When was
done.
it built?
1800s, definitely
Okay.
somewhere in there.
Okay.
But so we had been in the bar and we had a couple drinks and then also had some food, and then we were back up in our room and we are just gearing down. This is the very end of our trip. We're ready to go. And one of the things that I've been doing is every day I take too many pictures, and every day, so I'm trying to download to upload all these photos so everybody can see our trip. And so my wife, she's sleeping in the bed, she's laying down. So I'm in the bathroom, the only place where there's a plug. All the plugs are on the ground where I can't, which is ridiculous. The only one that I could get where I could to actually download it was in the bathroom sitting on the toilet. So I'm just sitting on the toilet and I'm downloading the pictures, and I can hear people in the bar downstairs. We're in room 1, and I can clearly, right at the top of the stairs that go down to the basement bar, and I can hear people there. And I can also hear people in the room next to me, just muffled. But so I'm sitting there and I'm uploading pictures, and pretty soon I hear a whisper, a clear whisper that says something. I'm not exactly sure. I could hear like a C word. I wasn't sure if it was like Clarence or it was saying, but it sounded like it was syllables. But by the time my brain was, I'm sitting here busy doing that, registered that that was in the room. That was in the bathroom. And I'm in the bathroom. And I'm like, so I looked up and I went, okay, that's weird. And I opened up the bathroom door, and Chrissy, she was my wife, she's asleep. She's laying in bed and nothing else. Everything's the same. So I sat there for a minute. I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I closed the door and I went back. And I kept loading. The whole time I kept going, that is really strange. Well, pretty soon she got up, and I'm thinking, she doesn't really like that stuff. So I was going to tell her about it. And so anyhow, so
you would have to wake me up and tell me.
Okay.
I would punch you in the arm
So
if you didn't.
She gets up and she's coming.
And we'd be sleeping with the light on.
I'm done downloading. She comes into the bathroom, so I come out. And as I step out, I notice our ceiling fan's on. And I thought that was strange. It's spinning. It's one that you have to click on. And it's cold in our room because it has a window air conditioner. I didn't click it. So I thought, okay, maybe somebody's walking, but it didn't really make much sense. And somebody be walking upstairs making it spin. But anyhow, I'm like, okay, I'm not saying that either because I'm not really sure what's going on with that.
You would have to tell me.
So I laid down in bed. I'm laying there, and she comes to bed. She lays down next to me, and she looks up and she goes, "Why is the ceiling fan spinning?" And I go, maybe it's because somebody's walking upstairs.
You would have to tell me.
But I wanted to get sleep at night. I don't want to freak her out.
Light on.
So I told her that. I did say, okay, there's other stuff, but I'm not going to tell you until tomorrow.
Oh,
Which is so much fun.
Chrissy, what do you put up with?
I know. So anyhow, she goes to bed. So the very first thing that happens in the morning, well, during the night, so we're sleeping there, and I hear her start to kind of moan, and then she clearly yells out loud, "No." She says, "No." And
does she usually talk in her sleep?
No, not usually.
Okay.
And the thing is we're almost on top of each other. This is a full bed.
But it's like
very ancient.
So it's like,
yeah, I think he came with the hotel when it was built.
so
It's very uncomfortable. Yeah, but we're literally right next to each other, so we can't. There's not like any space between us. I mean, because I'm not a small guy, and it's a small bed. And basically, she said that, so I kind of just reached my arm over and said, "Hey, wake up," And so she kind of got awake and all that, and I was like, So then we went back to sleep, and we woke up in the morning, and the very first thing she goes is, "Okay, tell me what else happened."
Okay.
And so the thing about the ceiling fan, though, that I didn't say is that after we sat there for like just a second, it slowed down, made 3 revolutions, and stopped. And never, ever came back on the entire time. We never clicked it.
So it was only on when you had heard the whisper in the bathroom.
Well, yeah,
afterwards. Before you went to bed, right?
Yeah, and after we noticed it, it stopped like a minute or 2 later. And it made and it slowed down. It just kind of slowed down and then just went, boom.
That's all.
And I'm not even sure it's spinning the right way it was supposed to.
Because
I don't even know.
Even if it's electrical, old, contacts once
or something.
I mean,
and it wasn't one that you have a light switch. It's one that you just pull and click it right from the bed.
Yeah.
And so it was really strange.
Yeah.
And
There's
so
no
anyhow,
like
that,
wind to
yeah,
push the legs,
exactly.
so you can't-
So anyhow, she said, so then I tell her that I heard a voice whisper that said like this. I can't say, Gum or Clarence or something. She goes, oh my God. She goes, I was in between awake and sleep, and I literally heard a female's voice whisper in my ear, come and play, come out and play. And she said no, and that's the no I heard, which is also the similar voice. It's all kind of. So I have to say, I've even in all of our paranormal investigations, I know, in all of our paranormal investigations, I have caught things on camera. I have heard footsteps. I have seen shadows, but I have never ever heard a voice, actually 100% a voice that I know was in the same area as I was, that I didn't know. I mean, there couldn't have been anything. It was a phantom voice for sure. I mean,
absolutely.
it was, so it was that was.
So did you look? So first of all, that would freak me out, and we would have been sleeping with the light on all night. And moving rooms. We would have been moving rooms. We would have been sleeping in the bar, behind the bar.
So the funny thing is we looked up. I looked it up.
Yeah, did you look it up?
And room 1 doesn't have any reports in it. And
did you report it?
No.
You should.
But room 4 does, and room 5 does, and then some of the hotel does. There's like kids in the hotel that have been hearing voices like that.
But it's always kids.
And then there's then there's a minor in one room, and then there's a female in another room. So the thing is,
though, a woman's voice come and play.
Yeah,
right.
It's a kid.
It could be even a teenage girl's voice.
Yeah.
But the thing is
I would
something about Virginia City is even right where we.
You would have gone off with a ghost. You would have never been seen again.
I know. right where we were staying, that Gold Hill Hotel, is right next to the Yellow Jacket mine, and that mine caught on fire, and there's like 45 people or 30 some people down right just in that area that had never been brought up, that are still buried under the ground. So that whole area has a lot of people that are just died in it, not to mention all the tragedies happen above ground. So I mean, it's just like a big paranormal hill.
And you said that silver mine, which is where that silver mine is, right? That it's very hot down there.
The Yellow Jacket mine. So something about the mines is these aren't like cold mines. You go down there, they're super hard. They're thermal. They have to do with volcanic stuff, and so you're looking at, they were 130 degrees down there. Yeah, even so, the miners would go down and they would work for 15 minutes. And they would collapse, and somebody would pull them, and then they would pull them off the water. They go back down. I mean, it really was the most awful conditions you could ever think. But back in the day,
even that's a lot of
correct. But back in the day, they were making $4 a day. $4 a day, which is a huge amount, tons of money. So the money, but the problem is Virginia City had all this prostitution and gambling and drink. So all their money, they made lots of money, but then they just dumped it back into the area.
Yeah.
Nobody, only the people that own the mine kind of were rich.
Sure.
The people working it actually not really so much.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyhow, that was.
Well,
so you can say that you actually have a voice experience that you now had.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
And you didn't expect that out of that motel life,
no,
right? You were just
well, not really. Well, I've been in lots of haunted hotels. I've been in lots of places. I've put myself, and this was just at the end of our trip, so it was like literally the furthest thing out of my mind. I wasn't expecting anything.
And maybe that's why it happens. And
true. I wasn't even.
Sometimes that's how it is.
And, I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So, and so anyhow.
Yeah, Chris's idea was awful.
I'm sorry, Chrissy. It sounds terrible.
Sorry, honey.
You and I would have run out.
Yeah, sorry. So I don't know if we'll be going back to that.
I bet not.
There we go.
You and Darren go.
We will.
Yeah, we will. So
you'll need 2 rooms because the bed's too little.
Yeah. So anyhow, on the some of the last things, I just want to talk about some shows that are coming up.
Yeah.
One of the things is in the theaters. We have Jordan Peele's Nope coming out.
That looks kind of cool.
July 22nd.
Yeah.
I want to go see.
I know it's UFO. I don't know if I can watch it. You guys watch it first.
Okay. So that one's really cool. And then also, which is interesting, I didn't even know they had it, but Tubi has a documentary, which I didn't know Tubi made documentaries that are just, It's actually not a documentary on Tubi. Tubi made the documentary, and it's called Aliens, Abductions, and UFOs. Roswell 75 years because it's the 75th.
Because this year was
right. So
just a couple weeks
that
ago.
came out on July 6th, and everybody Tubi's free. I mean, anybody can go watch this.
Yeah.
So I got to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But one of the shows that I've been watching, I think you've seen some of, and we're almost done with it, is The Man Who Fell to Earth. That's on Showtime or on Prime.
I've seen some of
it. It is amazing. It is not like the old show. I didn't read the book.
I read the book.
You read the book,
I did
right?
read the book. I read it when I was younger. When I was in my teens.
Right.
I barely remember.
Guessing because what it's dealing with wasn't about what the book was, because it's really has to do with like
I
now
watched the
times.
first episode.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
It's very well, and as you go through, it like is one feeling to the next. It's just one show to the next, and like the sixth one or something is just one of the most amazing things.
The
I mean,
acting's really great.
it is very good. So I don't know how it ends.
Really
I still have like a
Great
couple, but if you want to watch something, and I apologize if it ends horribly or whatever happens, but right
So far,
now,
so
so
good.
far, it's
So
really
far, so
good.
good.
I'm really interested in it. So
Well, and also another documentary that's out, and I don't think it's on streaming platforms yet.
Yeah.
But you can go on the website, and
I know I want to see it too.
it's Aerial
Very phenomenal. We've been talking about that. That's about
And
the kids.
that's all about the kids in the 90s down in
Definitely want to
Zimbabwe.
see that.
Oh.
Only 65 kids have come forward, but there's more
That's
than
a
that.
lot.
Yeah.
But they were out. It was during the playground,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whatever, and all the teachers were in the meeting.
Yeah.
It's Zimbabwe, small.
Yeah.
They all saw UFO that landed, and people came out and everything.
It's definitely good.
And the thing is back in the 90s stuff, John Mack, who is he's a Harvard psychiatrist, and he became friends with Bud Hopkins, which is really the grandfather of investigating contacts.
Oh, okay.
Right.
He's
Sure.
in like the 60s.
Yeah, sure.
And we're 70s. And so he went down instantly, and he interviewed, he's a child psychiatrist.
Sure.
So he knows
How kids think.
how kids think.
Correct.
Yep.
And he had them draw things, and everything collates.
It corroborates.
And he's like, I know kids, and these kids
Right.
on
And so this documentary even has the kids go back now.
Interesting.
Which is
and talk about
so
it.
I'm really interested. I really want to see
I want
it.
to hear what you guys say about that. Maybe
Yeah.
on your next.
Now we've got to get it. Like he said, it's
We've
not
got
on
to.
any streaming thing, so it's been a little difficult to get. So I'm hoping that somebody Amazon or somebody
it's
picks it
because
up.
I listened to the guy. What's interesting is Randall, what's his name? Randall something. The guy who directed and stuff. It took 10 years to do this.
I bet.
It looks like
And he
it's good.
said, what's interesting, and I didn't know this, is he was one of John Mack's adoptees. He's an adoptee himself.
Oh.
And he knew John Mack.
So-
And he was in one of his, because he would have groups
Oh,
for
sure.
inductees
Sure.
and stuff.
Well, no wonder he took the time on the show to do it right. Sounds like 10
And
years.
so he went to the streaming platforms, and they all wanted him to cut it down
Oh.
and make it shorter. And he was like, screw this.
Everything's
No, and
bingeable.
I like
Yeah.
that, and I don't think he needed to cut it
No.
down. So that's cool. So I can't wait to we got
Yeah,
see it.
it's like an hour and a half.
Oh, that's not too long at all.
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
Well,
That's it.
I guess that's it.
think we're
So thank you, Devon.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
coming here
Thank
and
you.
again,
Yeah.
your website.
yeah, check
Is
our website out,
www.devonmonk.com.
and also our YouTube channel.
Is
Monday months.
Monday month. Actually, it's Devon Monk's
Devon-
Works and World.
Yeah, but it's called Monday
Monday
months.
Months,
Is what
every
she does,
Monday,
and
yeah.
you're on like 20 something.
Yeah, 22 Mondays so far, which I
Nice.
realize is halfway through the year. So I've
There
done
you
that
go.
this
There
year.
you go. Good job.
Yay.
And so, anyhow, just wanted to say thank you for coming and joining us. And it looks like we'll probably have a show in September. So join us
Yep,
again. Not
that's
really
what
sure what,
we're
what we're
looking
going to have, but we'll make sure we get that information
We'll
out
do
there.
something.
Yeah, definitely something. So anyhow, thanks for joining us.
No,
Thanks for
thank
joining,
you so
everybody.
much, guys.
See you later.
All right, see you later.
Bye. See you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Is it done? Is it done?